Hello there! In an age where technology seems to be running amok and, perceptively, much of it is beyond the general comprehension of most people, we sort of default to some of our base irrational fears about such technology. AI technology, for example, has many real-world applications that could make life better, easier, and safer for the majority of human beings on the planet. It could end world hunger, homelessness, treat disease, and generally allow people to pursue personal ambitions and wants and desires beyond the basic grueling needs just for survival. AI opens up those doors. However, we all know it also opens up another door, a door of abuse, of power, a door where perhaps we've created our own worst enemy. Scenarios such as the rise of the Cylons in a show like Battlestar Galactica show us where something we could create for a seemingly profoundly malevolently benign purpose, because really it's only what we make it, can very quickly turn on us and actually become that malevolent thing which we feared it to truly be when we originally intended it to be the benign. This is going to be a little bit of a list of some of my cherry-picked favorites of where some of the most horrible machines we might create go wrong and turn on us and result in some of the most spectacularly brutal and sometimes insane machines of death which humanity might create from both film and television. This isn't a list in any particular order, but let me know in the comments below which one you might rank as your own personal worst nightmare, or you would prefer to have been on this list, because there are going to be many things that I leave out. In fact, to keep the video not stupidly long, there are many that I've left out, and they may get an honourable mention, they might not. Let's see. The first one on this list is the Enforcement Droid 209. If you've watched my channel for quite a while now, you might know I really like monstrous machines, and I've even done a video on the Ed 209 very early in this channel's history. Maybe it's not really a video I should plug and say, yeah, go watch that, it's great. Yeah, it's like 3 years ago, but whatever. The ED-209, or Ed-209, was a machine created to actually augment a very militarized police force in the city of Detroit by Omni Consumer Products. However, ED-209, despite being a form of artificial intelligence, was a fairly poorly designed machine to do the task that it was actually tasked with doing, as well as being something of a monstrous machine, even known to growl at people. It, in terms of appearance, had a dinosaur-like appearance, and that's being generous to really say it kind of looked like a chicken, as well as sort of fused with a shark, all with a metal body. It had a big open grate that resembled a mouth, which I'm assuming is an air intake, at the front, with flanking cannons on either side of it, as well as rocket launchers. The machine is bizarre, prone to malfunction, often can't handle staircases, falls in holes, and generally responds to every situation with maximum kill setting at all times. And that is the ED-209. Hell, it killed one of its own executives. I love this machine in both the original RoboCop and its subsequent movies and other media we've seen it in, animated, other such things. I'm even going to say, I don't know if it's an unpopular opinion, and it's, to me, and I don't actually like the remake of RoboCop, I'll be honest, I don't like the film at all. One is brilliantly cast, I think actually quite well acted, it's just poorly written. But the ED-209s in that film are far better than the ones in the original. And I'm sorry if that's an unpopular opinion, but they are so much cooler. They're so much more militarized. They're fucking huge as well. The things are monstrous. I mean, literally, they're meant to be monstrous. They're a monstrous machine, but they are absolutely gigantic killing machines. But with that said, we're going to move on to the next one on this list. And that is the ABC Warrior, as we saw in Judge Dredd. Now, this originated in, of course, the comic book series of 2000 AD. And it was actually its own line of comics, to be honest. The ABC Warrior we see in the film, which is a very flawed film by Sylvester Stallone, one of his early flops, actually. Although it has cemented itself as something of a cult movie. Maybe that might be being a little generous, but I think we're at cult level for that film, because if you like it, you're definitely in a cult. But the ABC Warrior in that film Can't deny, as a practical effect, as a big honking, again, sort of like a T-800 on steroids, which is always what I kind of maybe thought it was. Hell, I even thought with its chiseled kind of jaw and like overly like massive proportions, its huge godlike appearance as a machine, it was almost a parody of Arnold Schwarzenegger, which was kind of interesting in a Stallone movie. Don't know if I'm correct on that, and probably not, but it's what I kind of thought when I was younger. And watching it, I thought it's like he wanted Arnie in a film, couldn't get him, so he just built a robot version. It had chain guns of some kind in its knuckles, sort of 4 little machine guns in each knuckle, was incredibly strong, more than strong enough to rip a human being limb from limb with its bare hands. And it worked as a bodyguard, of course, to the main villain of the movie. They were meant to be relics from an AI war that took place many years earlier. They're banned, but you can keep them around as long as they're non-functional. And yeah, I think the machine's pretty damn cool. The film, maybe not so much, but the actual machine itself is a lot of fun. It's insane, of course, but it's fun. Not like the film, unfortunately. Next, we have the B-1 battle droid, and I know they're not exactly fearsome, but hear me out. They're funny, and they're fun, and they're cool. I mean, there's a lot of machines to choose from in Star Wars, and there are scarier ones, the Droideka, the Assassin Droid, things like that. They're far worse. They're far more destructive, far more dangerous. True. But the B-1 was produced in the billions, hundreds of billions, maybe even trillions, potentially. You think about how big the galaxy is and how many you'd actually need. You're potentially looking at trillions of those things. It depends on whether you want to go with Disney canon or with, the old pre-Disney era, where things were a little more bonkers. But the B-1 battle droid was actually seen and demonstrated to be pretty damn strong. We see clone troopers struggling, for example, at one point during the Clone Wars to lift the ammunition for a separatist gun, but we see a B-1 battle droid lift it no problem. These may be mass-produced kind of dumb machines, and they work like 19th century infantry. Just basically they march at the enemy, shooting their guns. They're not accurate, they fire from the hip, they're not good by any definition on their own, but they were never meant to be. They were always meant to work as a unit, en masse. Dozens, if not hundreds, or even thousands, potentially millions deployed at a single engagement. That's how they are designed to be used. They're an endless sea of death rolling over the hill. Not literally rolling, that's the Droideka, but still very cool. And there's an element of menace when you think about just how many of these damn things there are, how disposable, interchangeable, and how worthless they are, but at the same time how downright dangerous and cutthroat they can potentially be when there are so many of them. Just kind of cool, and that's why I picked them, because they're the most of all the clones who died during the war. They didn't die for the most part at the B2s or the Droidekas or a Spider Droid or anything like that. No, they died mostly at the hands of the B1s. So for the inferior, weak, primitive droid, they racked up a hell of a body count, including Jedi in some cases. Something to be said. Next, we have the slightly aforementioned T-800. It's an obvious one to have on this list as a inhuman killing machine. Again, the Arnold Schwarzenegger thing is finding its way back in here. The T-800 is very cool. I don't even think I need to tout too much how cool this machine really is. It's, again, designed specifically as an infiltration unit and just unit in and of itself. Titanium chassis, armor plated to hell. It is a machine that literally seems to have crawled out of the bowels of the depths of the worst thing you could ever imagine, put on a flesh suit, walked into your house and massacred everybody you know, stomping on your skull in the process. This thing is literally death incarnate, and there's no way around it. But they're insanely cool. I mean, the image of it rising out of the flames when it's had its flesh melted off and stuff is iconic. The machine itself is iconic. The movies it comes from, iconic. I don't think we can really say otherwise. I don't think I could have picked a more, again, hate to use the word iconic, but iconic machine. Okay, so apologies for the state of the green screen in this. I don't know what was going on with the lighting. I couldn't fix it in editing. I've noticed once all this is done, I've done all of my filming and I started on the editing process, that it was really, really bad. And as a result, this next segment, which I had filmed separately, it was even worse. So I've completely separated out the picture and I'm just going to put something in there. I've not quite decided yet because I'm recording this before I've edited it. just so it's not that distracting. I tried to fix it as much as I could, or cover it as much as I could in the first half of the video, but this next bit, I just can't. It's really bad all the way through, so I've just removed the picture, kept the audio, and put something in place that we'll see what that is. Now, because in some of these cases I have either already done a video on them, or again I didn't want this video to be too bloated, I thought I'd throw in a few honourable mentions. So noted them down because for some reason I just couldn't remember them. And my honourable mentions lists for this, which are machines that made it onto this list as honourable mentions, as I'll explain, are the Men of Iron from Warhammer 40k. The Men of Iron technically are not robots. I mean, I know they superficially seem that way because of the miniatures and stuff, but really the Men of Iron, it's an AI consciousness. Anything can be a Man of Iron. A ship could be a Man of Iron. An iron could be a Man of Iron. Iron Man could be a Man of Iron, as well as an actual android. They don't actually need the robot suit, if you understand. So that's why they kind of ended up as an honourable mention. The next one, the Prelor and the Kravik from Star Trek. Just because, as evil death machines go, they're not the most evil, they're pretty evil, wiped out their own creators, but I have already done a dedicated video on them. But Star Trek's not got a wealth of advanced, dangerous AI. There are other examples, of course, but there aren't a lot of them. It's not Star Wars in that regard. Next, we have Robot from Lost in Space. He's too lovable. He can't be evil. He's bad. He caused... I mean, I'm talking specifically, actually, the Robot from Lost in Space, 1997? I want to say 97. Not the original series and not the remake. I'm talking about the Matt LeBlanc movie from back then, which is actually something of a hidden gem of a film. But the robot in that is far too lovable to ever really be hated. But, you know, he did cause the ship to get lost in space. Next, as an honourable mention, I've got the Teachers from Class of 1999. I don't know, I couldn't remember this list, but I couldn't, so there you go. The Teachers from Class of 1999, if you're not familiar with the movie, is basically this film which I think I may have done a video on before, which is again why I didn't put them as one of my main films, because I really do like them. They're like the Terminators. They're basically infiltration units. It came out around the same time as like the after effects of the Terminator and films like Cyborg and stuff and Robocop, which were all clones, effectively of the same thing and same idea. And it's basically, there's this really, really bad school, really shit school, and there's lots of gun violence and deaths and shit like that happening. So they're like, oh my god, we need a solution. So they bring in these robots to teach the students because people just can't do it anymore. And that's them. And they, of course, go all wrong because they're actually ex-military machines. They're looking to adapt for some kind of civilian use, but they neglected to, you know, take the guns off them. You can see how it goes bad. Actually, pretty good B-movie of a film. And the last one would be the Killbots from Futurama. Just because, again, I think I have done a video on them. And they're too stupid and too funny to actually be really threatening. But they're still pretty damn cool. And it's another franchise, a lot like Star Wars. There's a lot of robots to choose from, and there's a lot of different types of Killbots. And you've got Bender, of course, that seems to, you know, kill all humans kind of attitude. I could have just put Bender on this list. And then the Santa, who I definitely have done a video on before. Anyway, that's all them. And finally, though, my sort of personal one. It's from one of my personal favourite films, a movie called Death Machine, starring Brad Dourif, as surprise, surprise, the villain. But he's actually a genius inventor, and he builds a machine known as the War Beast. The War Beast is a huge hulking machine. It's not true AI like the previous mentions on this list, but it's my list, and I want it on here because I love this film. It's a guilty pleasure. And no, fuck that. It's not a guilty pleasure. It's just a pleasure. The War Beast basically keys on your fear. It tracks pheromones as well as doing visual and other stuff, but it basically allows it to track your pheromones. The more scared you are, the faster it finds you. The faster your heart rate's going, the quicker it can find you. It's a deadly machine that's only held in place by a red button on its remote. Once the button's removed, like a dead man switch, this thing just goes and it kills anything that's scared of it. It's pretty much impervious to bullets, rockets, high falls, anything. This thing just... it's a death machine. And it's basically one of those movies that came out around the time of like where they had this fetish for skyscraper movies where shit was going on and people were like battle royale in a building. And basically the building's mostly empty, a few people left, including Brad Dourif, and some terrorist guys, eco-terrorists, turn up trying to sabotage the vault. And instead of opening the right vault, they open up Vault 10, which contains the War Beast, and it's released, and then it's them trying to get out of the building while this thing chases them down because its inventor has a crush on one of the CEOs, and she just won't boink him. And because she won't boink him, or interface as he uses, he's a full-on incel. But who doesn't love Brad Dourif? He proper hams this performance up. It is really good. Because she won't interface with him, he says, well, you're all going to die then. But he says, if you'll come and interface with me, I'll call off the War Beast, you can all leave. And she obviously says, no, F you. And they figure out a way to turn the tables on him and turn the War Beast on him. It's also one of the few examples on my current list where the War Beast never actually defeated. That's how good this damn thing is. By the end of the film, it's not only left standing, it kills its own creator. All they manage to do is contain it. They don't actually manage to disable it. They do a bit of damage here and there, but nothing significant to even slow it down. It just has redundancy on redundancy and just keeps going. Even with the minor damage it does sustain, it's nothing. This thing just keeps on going, and all they manage to do is contain it. It's literally a fear keyed in machine, and very cool and very vicious, and has this basically big rotating jaws and claws. It's designed to intimidate. It's designed to specifically look terrifying. I mean, Tarkin will be so proud of this machine. It uses fear itself as a weapon, because not only because it wants you to be afraid of it, it needs you to be afraid of it because of how it tracks you. So it's deliberately designed to manifest your fears. It doesn't use guns or projectile weapons. It just crashes through the walls. The fact that this thing is nigh unstoppable, the fact that it is relentless and single-minded, and all it wants to do is chew you up and shred you, is what makes it terrifying. And again, the more terrifying it is, the easier it comes after you. But that is my list. That's the last one I have for this list, and that will be the end of this video. If there's anything I've left off this list you think should be on it, by all means, let me know in the comment section below. Maybe I'll do a follow-up video for this one. And maybe I'll even elaborate more on the ones from my honourable mentions. Who knows? Because, you know, I just didn't want this video to end up being 2 hours long, which I very easily could have done because the sheer number of robots and machines in films. But I wanted to pick some of the ones that I personally have a fondness for. And what do you guys think of this list? And again, what have I missed? Let me know in the comments below. If you feel the video is worth it and you like what you've seen here, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe, because it all helps the channel grow and it's very much appreciated, and this channel is still growing, and I would like to do this more often and have more time to do these kinds of videos, and that's only accomplished by people engaging more with the videos. So by all means,